What's going on, everybody? Wednesday, 28th of April, Life Cycles Live. And you guys, this next episode, having a series about careers, trades, tech and engineering professions. I've been talking a little bit about this with my students in Old Dominion University and thought it was a good topic to bring up here in the Life Cycles Live for those that are unfamiliar with the platform and the kind of the way it's set up is that we would talk about the people, the different methods for life cycle management, and the assets that we have in our lives. Wildly interesting. I didn't want to just focus on life cycle management or on different assets that we manage in our industry. I wanted it to be about the people as well. So this is a little bit about getting people on the right track, right? We talked in the last episode about whether to choose to go to a trade school, to go to college, do something else like the military, or go directly into the workforce. And you could do all of those. You don't have to do just one or the other. So that was what comprised the majority of Monday's episode. Tonight, I wanted to address a question that I got from a good friend of ours, Leah, over at Excelix, right? She was holding it down. I'm going to try and pull up her exact message here on LinkedIn because she saved it. And I want to make sure I tell you guys the right place to get to it. She made her comment on LinkedIn and shared the episode, which I'm extremely grateful that she did so. I want to make sure I give Leah Freiberg the props she deserves for the post. So she did post this in the Excelix Connected Reliability page, and I wanted to make sure that I could point you guys to that location. So I'll try and save the link so that the people that are actually members of that group, because it is a group, can get to it. And for those that can't, please check out what Leah's doing. It's amazing. She does awesome things. She's a great communicator. She's great at sharing and supporting others, sharing content, sharing what other people are producing. And she's a great gateway to the Excelix family over at Fluke. So, all right. So when I posted last week's episode, I got some pretty good response. Leah brought up the point that I thought was a natural progression from that conversation. What about people that have already entered the maintenance and reliability profession and they're now 5 years into a career? Or I'll expand on her example a little bit, say 5 to 10 years. What would you advise them based on your experience? First things first, I don't think you should put a lot of faith in someone's advice unless you know where they're coming from, right? So let me tell you a little bit about my background so that you can determine whether you want to take this advice seriously or not. I was a machinery technician in the U.S. Coast Guard for 10 years before I got my commission, right around 9 years before I got commissioned as a naval engineer. In that 10 years, I was basically a mechanic for shipboard systems, and I focused primarily on propulsion systems. So I was big into work on diesel engines. I did a lot of work on propulsion systems, pumps, reduction gears, fuel handling systems, fuel transfer, lubrication oil, all this stuff, right? So everything that comes along with maintaining the propulsion systems for a plant. My big love was working on diesels, and so that was my perspective on trade. And then, of course, once I moved out of my trade and more into the engineering and engineering management side of my career, I moved into division management, then departmental management, and served as a chief engineer on a ship where I owned the engineering department and all of its functions, and was responsible for all of that directly to the captain. And then I also served as a port engineer where I had 7, 8, 9 ships, sometimes 11 under my thumb, executing large maintenance repair projects and availabilities. I also was served at headquarters, the workforce manager for all the naval engineering officers in the Coast Guard, and that was a 3-year tour where I maintained an account of about 500 active duty officers, all the way from the very newest officers to the most senior. And we did career progression, career counseling. I was the graduate school program manager, advanced education. I was on selection panels for that. I served on promotion boards, so I got the full on exposure for workforce management in engineering management. And then I also was a policy manager. So I dealt with establishing strategic policy and direction for service members and for programs. And then I moved out of that position into being the branch chief of the engineering and weapons school for the Coast Guard. After I did that for a year, and that was a staff of about 160 technicians and instructors, I retired and went into the workforce as a logistics program manager for a large Army acquisition, helping to design and build landing craft for the Army. And then, of course, that naturally brought me to where I am today, which is with the Columbia Submarine Program as a senior product support strategist and the integrated logistics support manager. So I'm the logistics engineer nerd in the room for them. So anyways, that's what my professional path brought me to. So especially focused on my workforce management side, I had a lot of exposure to helping people transition from that 5 to 10 year career point into something meaningful for them in their career. And I made a couple of points on Leah's posts, and I'll reference those in this conversation so that you guys have all the details that I shared on LinkedIn. So when she asked that question, I thought, wow, this is really hard to answer because there's so many variables at play when you're talking about someone that has that time in the seat already, 5 to 10 years in a career. And feel free to agree or disagree with me on these things, but I think you start looking at a few key variables. One is what trade or specialty you're involved in, what type of engineer you are, what type of technician you are. And that comes with an identity. It comes with certain amounts of rigor. It comes with certain amounts of physical work. It comes with certain types of people in many cases and environments. So your trade or specialty has a huge, huge impact on your perception of your career at that point and where you think you want to be. Also, what are your opportunities for growth, right? Because you could be in a great field, but in the wrong location or the wrong company or the wrong team to really have a solid opportunity for growth in that existing infrastructure that you've built around yourself in your career. And you maybe need to branch out of that to expand those opportunities. Or maybe you've got all the opportunities that you want or need around you already. So your opportunities for growth are going to be a significant influence on how you feel about your career at your 5 to 10 year mark. Your current employer, right? Who are you working for? I've worked with people that were in the military and they loved being in the military, but the other stuff wasn't working out for them. They loved being in the Coast Guard, or they loved being in the Marines, and just being a Marine or being a Coastie or being a sailor in the Navy or an airman in the Air Force, or even I'm not going to call them grunts, a soldier in the Army. Sorry, guys. Those guys, they all have an identity based on their organization, a very strong one, right? So you look into the civilian sector, you end up with the same, not the same thing, but a like situation where you kind of take on the identity of the company you work with or the team you work with. And so your employer has certain opportunities that are available to you. So it's not just about what you do for a living as far as your trade. It's not just about the opportunities that your trade provides you or your specialty provides you, but it's also about who you're doing those things with, who you're currently working for. And then, of course, there's location, right? And location's a biggie for some people because they don't want to venture far from loved ones, or they want to go anywhere. They're all about the adventure. So you'll find different motivators for people. But I think if you can look at trade or specialty, your opportunities for growth, who you're currently working with, and your location, you're going to find that covers most of the significant variables surrounding people's decision-making at the 5 to 10 year mark. All right. So what do we do with that information? Well, you have to consider other things, right? You have to consider a lot of the administrative type things that support those other variables: salary, the hours, what type of demand you have in your job. And when I mean by demand, I don't mean how demanding is your job. How much are you in demand as a person in that specialty or in that career, right? So if you're a mechanical engineer, is there a strong market for mechanical engineers in the area you're either currently working and residing in or where you want to be? right? That would be a really important factor for you to determine what your opportunities are for growth and expansion, either in your company or in your area. Maybe all the demand is somewhere else. Think about being a welder right now, right? So welding's very high demand skill set, and it's super high demand in certain areas of the country where the industrial complex is thriving. You look at the Gulf states, right, where the shipbuilding industry is just rolling. There's a significant demand for welders in the Gulf. So you're going to feel different about your career, about your opportunities, about your location if you're looking at the Gulf than if you're perhaps living in the Midwest, right, or somewhere in central U.S. or even anywhere else in the world for that matter. I'm acting like people might be watching this that are only in the U.S. sorry, guys. All right. So yeah, salary is a biggie for some people, not so much for others. There's some people, salary is kind of a funny thing. When I was coming, up in the military, our salary, your rank is known. We wear a rank on our collar. Your salary is published. You're paid by the U.S. government. Anyone can look up your salary. It's not by you, it's by rank, right? So they could say, oh, well, Luke is a E5 in the Coast Guard. They can go look up E5 pay rate in the Coast Guard. If they know how many years roughly I have in, they can get a pretty good idea about how much money I make for a living. So I never really guarded my salary. When I left the military and I went out into the civilian sector, I was a little surprised by how sensitive some people were about salary, and the topic of salary was really difficult for them in job interviews, and that's on both sides of the table. Being the person interviewing someone and the person being interviewed. And I found that very fascinating because I had grown up in a culture where it was just widely published what your salary is and what the next rank provides you. Some people are motivated by increased salary more so than they are other elements of their job because they see those other elements as equal. I do this technician job here. I'm going to do the same job over there or like enough. But this one pays more. So why not go over there, right? You start looking at the pros and cons. Sometimes salary can be a differentiator. If you're at the 5 to 10 year mark and your organization doesn't look like they're providing you much opportunities for growth position wise, but you still have opportunities for growth in your salary or other benefits, sometimes that's enough to keep people engaged and sticking around, right? Sometimes that's enough. Other times it's not. Other times it is not enough. So you need to understand that about the people in the organization you support and what type of what culture they have. Now, I've worked in places that prioritized the other elements of work-life balance and climate and all that more so than salary. You may make less to work there, but they prided themselves on being like a family, really taking care of people, being the employer of choice. To quote Admiral Zunkoff when I was in the Coast Guard, he said we had to be the employer of choice because we couldn't compete with many of the outside organizations that were competing for our talent. We needed people to work for the Coast Guard because they wanted to work for the Coast Guard, not because they were going to make a fortune, because they never would. You're never going to get rich in the military. So some people are motivated by salary more than others. That's just one of those administrative type examples of things you could consider at the 5 to 10 year mark, maybe differently than you did when you first started, right? Because when you first start your career, you may not be focused so much on a dollar ceiling just yet. You're happy to get a good starting salary and get your feet planted and get some experience and some time in trade or time in practice in a profession. You're trying to get that established. You need to get started. But 5 to 10 years down the road, you've already done enough of that to kind of offset that demand a little bit internally and say, well, now I'm starting to look at my long-term implications of salary. I'm starting to look at my opportunities for growth in my own company or in my own trade. If I stay here, can I become a master mechanic? Can I become a senior engineer? Can I become an engineering manager? Maybe, maybe not. It might be that you have all the opportunity in the world somewhere else, but it's just not right here. So me staying in this team, this organization, inhibits my career growth in my eyes and in my mind. And that's something that you have to rationalize for yourself. You have to be able to talk through that, right? And if it's not the right place for you to be, then you need to go find the right place to be. Now, on the flip side, some people get paid quite a bit to do what they're doing. They don't want to move up. They are happy with where they are. For them, they've got everything just the way they want it. and their idea of a successful career is the one they have, and they want to maintain that. And that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you don't work in what I refer to as an up or out organization. The military is up or out. Okay, that means if you don't progress upward, they push you out, right? Now you could work in certain civilian environments in the same type of climate, where if you're not maintaining enough momentum and progression in your career, you start to slip off the radar a little bit as far as priorities. And when it's time to start looking at who gets the axe when that merger happens, or when they need to downsize, you may not be as safe as others, right? So it also comes into performance recognition at the end of the year. If you're working in an organization where they provide bonuses and salaries annually, if they view you not wanting to progress beyond your current position as a negative, that could negatively impact you financially. Some organizations look at that and say, hey, as long as they're doing a great job in the job they're in, and I'm not needing them somewhere else and they're not refusing to go there, I can still afford to give these people good raises, good bonuses, and we're all happy. So this is why organizational context matters. The place you work at matters in this regard, because they control those things. All right. Let's see, what did I have next on my little list of things? Assessing your readiness for an advanced education, right? So let's say you're 5 to 10 years in, you either went into a trade and got started as a journeyman, and then moved into your career path there, and you're exceeding in your team, in your organization, but you're thinking now about your own personal qualification, certification, licensure, whatever, degree, whatever the case may be for you. Let's say maybe you're in college, you graduate 4 years, mechanical engineer, electrical, whatever. You go into your profession, you spend a couple of years, before you know it, half a decade to a decade have passed, and now you're like, wow, maybe I should go get my master's degree, right? So same kind of decision making in both situations, whether it be a trade or a profession, in the engineering profession. But the point is, you have to think about what that's going to provide you, right? Is that going to provide you what I like to call professional satisfaction, where as a mechanic, I really enjoyed learning my trade, and becoming a master mechanic would have been something I would have been proud of, not only because I would have been a master mechanic and maybe I can get a little bit more salary for that. Maybe it makes me more competitive for future positions elsewhere, or even in my own team. But it also was something that would have been personally gratifying. Like I would have been happy that I had achieved that. I would have been very proud of that, right? So there's many reasons to go into advanced levels of your field. As far as education goes, if you look at getting a graduate degree, we'll just say like a master's of science in whatever your discipline is. If you do that, you have to ask yourself the same question: why am I pursuing this? Is it because eventually I want a position that's going to require that education? Or maybe if it's not required, it would be beneficial to me to have that. It would make me more competitive. Or is it because I have a thirst for learning, and I want to get smarter in my own discipline and be one of the people that can say they finished a graduate degree as an engineer in their discipline? That's really cool, right? Like it's the same thing. It's just a different flavor. And the difference would be the cost, the opportunities to get those degrees, the path that it takes to get there. Those are the differences, right? So if you're in trade, you might have to go into a program to develop you. When I was doing coatings inspections, you could get like NACE, which is a coatings inspection certification, level 1, 2, or 3. And if you were to go to level 3, it was really difficult. You had to sit in a live board with a panel of experts, all level 3s that were going to grill you for hours, right? There's a lot of learning before that to get to that point and be recommended for the panel, and then to survive the panel. So I mean, there's a lot of investment there. Time, money, energy, focus, all the good stuff. And so you have to think, am I willing to make that investment? Right? Am I willing to invest that time and energy into that pursuit? Because the end state of achieving that goal is worth it to me. All right, the cost is worth it. The benefit of this path is good for me. I see this in a positive light, right? To make it simple. That's all good. You have to have that kind of thinking about it. If you're on the fence, then take a little bit more time to think about it. What's the rush? What's the rush? Unless there's like some life altering event coming down the pipe, if you don't make the decision, don't beat yourself up. Give yourself a little bit of time. I did the same thing when I was invited to go to George Washington to apply for the Doctor of Engineering program. I initially said, no way. I just got out of my master's in systems engineering and I'm tired. I'm going into a new position that's going to be a very demanding job. I was working on a 2-star admiral's, staff as a workforce and policy manager for all these people. And I had so much to learn about being in headquarters, and the demands of the commute and the work were just very high. So it was hard for me to imagine myself doing something like getting my doctorate during that same time period. If anything, just because of my own sanity. But to be honest with you, I had the seed already planted when I finished my master's that I wasn't done yet, right? I had sat at my graduation ceremony for my master's and thought, I don't feel like I've finished yet. I don't feel like this is the end for me. I definitely felt that way when I got my doctorate. I was not doing that again. I said, yeah, I'm done now, right? So maybe I just didn't suffer enough with my master's. I don't know. But the moral of the story there is there was some internal motivation to go do it. It was a personal reason besides just a professional reason. I'm of the mind that if it's simply professional, you're not going to do your best. The competition of priorities in life will defeat you at times. What keeps you up late at night to study? What makes it so that you don't sleep every Friday for 2 years, right? Like that was the stuff, that I was facing in my doctorate. What is it that makes you want to read that 40th research paper so that you can wrap up that literature review? These are things that you have to ask yourself when you're considering, am I going to endure this path and do it right and do myself am I going to honor my own commitment? Am I going to be my best while I'm doing this? So when I did my undergraduate work while I was working full time, I knew I wasn't the best student I could be, but I was still a good student, right? But I wasn't able to just spend all day studying. I was spending all day plus working a very demanding job. So by the time I got to doing my studies, I was tired. I was exhausted. My brain wasn't tops, and my commitment to doing assignments was great as far as getting things submitted. But of course, the quality of those assignments would lag a little bit. And so you have to think about that based on where you're at in your life. When I had children, stack another layer on top of that, right? When I had young kids, it was really difficult, my master's degree, because I basically did all my studying really late at night, early hours of the morning when the kids were asleep and I wasn't distracted and I could concentrate. And I also wanted to be present for them as a dad, and not just the dude sitting at the table with all the books and the computer. And then, of course, it's no different when I went into my doctorate as far as that's concerned. It's just a different type of investment of time and energy. And so you have to consider all of that at each of those levels in your career. Now, let's say you're at 5 to 10 years, you've done all this math, you say going and getting an education is worth it. You've said, I think it's okay for me to go into an advanced certification, right? Like maybe you've already done your project management professional, your PMP certification. Now you're looking at tacking on some other project management certifications. Or maybe you're, like I said before, a technician. You want to become specialized. I was a technician, machinery technician. I got an opportunity to go become a Paxman certified company mechanic, right? To work on certain Paxman Valenta engines. Or when I became certified as a Honda tech, to work on Honda outboard engines. Like all that was cool. That was all advanced training in my field, gave me a little something extra, but I had to invest in that, right? So now you've got all that. What are you going to do with it? I would not have made any of those investments at all if I wasn't going to stay in that field. And that's really important. When you decide to go into those investments, when you decide to look at that advanced education, that new position, that move across country to take that next job in the same career field that moves you up one level, you're making an additional commitment to that career. You're making an additional commitment to that trade or profession. That's a big deal, but people don't think about that sometimes. They think, well, it's just natural. I actually conducted an interview for somebody one time, and I said, well, what makes you want to move into this management position? And this is a person that was a senior analyst. They've been doing what they do for a long time. And they said, well, I guess to me, it's just natural. Well, what's natural? The tasks associated with the new job? No, just moving up. It's time. It's the right time. Oh, okay. Well, to me, time isn't the motivator. To me, readiness and willingness are the motivator. You could spend 15 years in your job or in your trade, in your career, your profession, whatever, and it still not be the right time for you to progress in your life because you're not willing to invest in those new things to get you there, or you're not ready to move on professionally yet. Maybe you're on a really, really, really cool project or program. You want to see it through. It's going to delay you 2 or 3 years before you move into that next position. But that's really where you want to, how you want it to play out. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So you have to look at your own situation. Don't judge yourself too harshly against what other people have done. You may have family members that have gone to, let's just pick a school like Penn State or something, and they've did their undergrad there. Then they went back and got their master's there. And, you've got this family thing going where we went, now you should go. And if you don't, I'm going to be upset. Like, I don't understand it because I didn't have that in my life, but I can see where that's happened to other people around me. And it's like this undue pressure. And I said, well, what's right for you? Right? Well, that person wasn't ready to move on yet. That person's readiness and willingness to go do the right thing at the right time to move to that next step or take on that additional education or certification wasn't there yet. So don't force it. It's that simple. I mean, we get caught up in the thinking about it, but the reality is, unless someone is forcing you up or out, don't feel as if you have to answer to anyone else about this but yourself. And when you're ready, when it's right for you, then you can move. Now, you might find that you don't get the opportunity you're looking for if you wait. There's times when a position opens and it doesn't open often, and you either jump now or forever hold your peace. Who knows? It could be another 10 years before another opportunity like that in that specific area or company or field or whatever is open again. And you have to kind of jump while you can. But that's kind of unique, right? And if it's not, then you know what you have to do if you really want to progress. You have to take it. So just make sure you're looking at this holistically, that you're pulling in all the variables and you're doing a multivariate analysis in your head instead of just worrying about 1 or 2, 3 factors that are going to impact you. I've seen a lot of people make career decisions solely off of location. I would not have done that younger in my career. I would definitely do that now. My kids are established. I'm not moving. Right? So if I got offered a job in another state, if I didn't need that job to survive, I would be very, very, very skeptical about taking it. I wouldn't be moving forward with that position without a lot of talking and kind of internal deliberation, and of course talking to my wife and my family and everything about whether it's best for me to just go there and come back every once in a while and do like the geo-bachelor, the geographic bachelor kind of thing, where I bounce back and forth between the job and the home, or do we all move, or do we just stay put and say forget about it, look for another opportunity when it comes up, right? These are different than when I was 19 years old and it was like the world is your oyster and you're not making decisions for 4 or 5 people, you're making decisions for 1. So life context, organizational context, the type of career and field you're in, all these things play into the decision. And I think if you put them all together and you look at them the right way, you'll be all right. So I like to go back to the simple foundational way that my old man taught me this when I was younger. He said, dude, piece of paper, line down the middle, pros and cons, write them out, think them out, talk about them. And what you'll find is you'll start to locate the right answer for you in that conversation. And it may take you a couple of iterations. I had this same kind of back and forth when I was determining whether to retire from the military and move into the civilian sector or not. my wife and I spent a considerable amount of time and energy batting the decision around, talking about what life would be like if we stayed in, maybe like, because you never guaranteed anything, what life would look like for us possibly on the outside, what my opportunities were, what it would do for the family. And we became more and more convinced the more and more we looked at the pros and cons that retirement was probably the best opportunity for me at that time. It's not retirement from work, it's retirement from the military. So it's retiring on Friday and starting on Monday somewhere else. But you get what I'm saying. So it's very important that you look at the whole enchilada, right? So all right, let's talk for a moment about East Partnership, because I would be a terrible business owner and partner if I didn't mention that in my live stream. Just a reminder that Suzanne Grieman has launched AM103, Asset Information Management, and she has released even more course modules by now. So the last time I talked about this, I think we were at like course module 3 or 4. She's double that number now. So get out there, check it out, eastpartnership.org. You can check out Suzanne Grieman's page at Grieman Asset Management Academy at East Partnership, right? So if you go to my page and you click on asset management, and it'll bring you right to Suzanne's page. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see categories or courses. You click on that, it takes you to all the courses that Suzanne has either launched or has coming down the pipe. And right now we've got Asset Management 101, which is Intro to Asset Management. We have AM 103, which is Asset Information Management. And Suzanne has even been kind enough to bundle the two into an Asset Information Value Pack. So if you're looking to save a little bit money on both the courses, you can enroll in the Value Pack and have both courses at a discounted price. So that's pretty cool. Thank you for considering that opportunity for us, Suzanne. And for those that aren't familiar, Suzanne's always out there doing great things, stomping the circuit, speaking. You may have noticed that she's been really focused on a few specific things this last quarter. Well, and I wanted to share a little lesson learned from Suzanne. She's been taking a good bit of time to make sure that she's building her business the way she wants it to be, because she wants it to be the best it can be for the customers that she has in her life and her partners. And so I commend you for doing that, Suzanne. And there's a lot of discipline that it takes to do that. And I hope that other people learn from that example. So you can see the quality of products that Suzanne puts out are top notch. Her classes are top notch. Her work and consultancy is top notch. And we're just blessed to have her as a part of our family at East Partnership. Additionally, we've got Sonia Maduro's book. I think it's still on sale. If you've been holding off on getting Sonia's Lubrication Degradations Mechanisms textbook, I would run out there and check it out, because I think it's on a pretty significant discount right now, and it's only going to be for a little while. So I would check that out. And then, of course, my partner in crime, Mr. Jesus Safante, and I have been talking a lot about RCM lately. He's got an RCM course kicking off next Friday, May 7th. It's a 4-week course, hybrid course, if you will, of both on-demand and live training. Jesus meets with his learners for 2 hours each week. On Fridays, I think this one is. It might be Mondays. It's the 7th. It's going to be Fridays. And he spends 2 hours with them going over structured material and the curriculum and setting them up for success in their on-demand studies that week. And then they take the remainder of the week to do their studies independently on their time at the best location for them. And then they meet up again for 2 hours the next week. We do that every week in May for 4 weeks straight, and then it's done. And when you graduate from that course, you're either a yellow belt or an orange belt RCM, depending on which path you chose. The yellow belt is fantastic for learning the fundamentals of RCM and getting out there and learning about how to be a good analyst. And then the orange belt is a demonstration of that, and you become a certified analyst, and you've actually performed a FMEA project, and you've defended that work with Jesus. So it's really, really, really educational course. It's a ton of great information. And at the end, of course, you've got the project, which drives it all home because it's all about application, right? Let's see, what else do we have going on at the site? Oh, don't forget to check out Bob Latino, CEO of Reliability Center. He's doing an RCA webinar tomorrow, I think, so the 29th. So make sure you guys are checking that out. And I owe Bob an article that I promised him I'd co-write with him. So Bob, if you're listening, I'm working on it. So we'll be publishing something through RCI here soon, a blog article. And then, of course, I've released another module of the level of repair analysis course at eastpartnership.org. And our lifecycle management community is alive and well. And that's a really cool thing. I actually had a former coworker reach out to me and say, hey, what's the community all about? And I wanted to be able to provide my maintenance task analysis and level of repair analysis courses to my students at a pretty deep discount. So they sign up for a subscription each month rather than paying, $300 for this course and $300 for that course. They can, and getting full immediate access to both those courses, which is still an option. You can join the Lifecycle community. And if you do that, it gives you access to those courses and what's called drip content. Each week, a new lesson from one of those courses is released, and you get fed your content over time, which allows you to also spend a lot less at one time to join the community, right? You don't have to fork up hundreds of dollars to join the classes, but you can put the $50 a month in to your subscription, and your courses are played out for you over time, which helps even out some of that cost over time, which I hope helps some people out. And it also gives you access to the Life Cycles Management community page, which is where I'm sharing exclusive articles that I don't post anywhere else. I'm going to do some videos that I post there as well. And I'm going to host live webinars exclusively with that community where we can talk and answer questions about MTA, LoRa, whatever, anything goes. It'll be like a 1-hour session. And I'm not sure if it's going to be weekly or bi-weekly yet, but I'll work that out and then get that out to you guys. So exciting stuff happening in these partnerships. Anyway, don't forget to check us out on LinkedIn. If you're here watching this on Facebook, please don't forget to subscribe, right? Because I would like for you to be able to get notifications about our live streams and then non-live streams when I'm just publishing a video for your benefit. And I'm trying to do this every few days to put out more video content because this is where I'm most comfortable communicating. So anyways, I'm hoping to get some people actually getting on the live feeds and interacting with me, and we can have chat and everything like Dylan Day did the other day, which was awesome. Dylan, I'm missing you today. But yeah, don't forget to check us out. Keep your eye on the channel. More live streams coming. And don't forget to be a good human to other people. Talk to you later. Bye.